And we have new information in the case of a Connecticut man charged with the death of a hotel worker in Anguilla. An international arrest warrant has been filed for Scott Hapgood. He was a no-show at a scheduled court hearing yesterday on the island. Anguilla's attorney general says Hapgood is now considered a fugitive. CBS News' Errol Barnett is here and has been following this story closely. Errol, this is a considerable escalation of the situation, isn't it?
Certainly. This is the first time we're hearing from the government of Anguilla on why or what their views are that Scott Hapgood did not show up to Monday's preliminary hearing. And we should note that this incident where he says a hotel employee in Anguilla came to his room saying he wanted to fix a sink, which led to some type of altercation which resulted in Kenny Mitchell, that hotel worker, dying, happened back in April. And in the past few months, the Hapgoods have been traveling to Anguilla for preliminary hearings. He is charged with manslaughter and had a $74,000 bail so that he could be free while this is in the works. But the actual trial hasn't begun yet. Monday was supposed to be the decision from the judge whether or not to move forward. The Hapgoods said that they did not feel comfortable going back to the territory, that the government couldn't assure that he would be safe, and they are questioning whether or not he will receive fair justice. Today we hear from the government saying in very firm terms that those concerns are, quote, totally groundless. The governor's office also issued a statement saying that they will not partake in public relations shenanigans, possibly a reference to Mr. Hapgood's wife, Callie, appearing on Fox News recently and imploring President Trump to help in this case.
And he did tweet in response, didn't he? What did he say?
That's right. Callie appeared on Fox and Friends, a program that President Trump enjoys and watches, and she said specifically, "I've seen President Trump help so many people around the world. We really need his help." And the president that day sent out a tweet that we can show you, which reads, "We will be looking into Scott Hapgood's case and the island of Anguilla. Quote, something looks and sounds very wrong."
Well, I think that's what makes this case so fascinating, is that regardless of which angle you look at it, something doesn't quite add up. It seems as if the pieces don't all fall into place. And so that's why it's so fascinating. I also think it's an example of a small island nation perhaps feeling a bit bullied by a larger country. I mean, I know that within Anguilla, weren't there a lot of people criticizing the special treatment that perhaps Hapgood was getting as a tourist, as a wealthy tourist?
Without a doubt.
And so I'm sure they're sensitive to these things.
This has captivated the entire island, which of course relies heavily on tourism. It is the main industry. So even if you're not employed at a hotel, you know someone who is. It's the lifeblood for people there. And many people felt that the fact that Mr. Hapgood was able to leave the island despite being charged with manslaughter was an example of that wealthy American privilege. But none of this really stacks up for both sides. You know, this is the first foreign trip the Hapgoods took to a foreign nation, and within a few days, Mr. Hapgood is being charged with manslaughter.
Right.
Leading to the death of a hotel employee. But on the flip side, we spoke with a witness, Jashwan Clark, who was the very first hotel employee in the room after the two men got into some kind of scuffle. We still don't know what led to that. And he said that there was no knife on the blood in the room, that Mr. Hapgood was on top of Kenny Mitchell for 30 minutes, even with other hotel staff there. Mr. Hapgood saying, "I don't trust any of you in your blue uniforms. I'm not getting off of him until the police arrive." So it's just very unusual.
And the toxicology report showed that Mitchell had high levels of cocaine and alcohol in his system.
Precisely.
Correct?
What's surrounding this entire case is a gag order on everyone involved, and so it's been very difficult to get information confirmed and out. But one thing that Hapgood's defense team has been very keen to do is publicize the toxicology report, which does show that Kenny Mitchell, the alleged victim in this case, had a very high level of cocaine in his system. Team Hapgood says it was such a high amount he was a dead man walking. They also say that he had twice the legal limit in the US of alcohol. On the flip side of that, those who defend Kenny Mitchell say that he was a soft-spoken, a loving man, a father who would entertain hotel guests on the island when they would come through, and that to characterize him as a drug-fueled man in the middle of a rage demanding money just doesn't fit to them.
Right.
You know, this incident took place at 4 p.m. in the afternoon on a luxury resort. all of it seems so unusual, but now a major escalation as the island says they consider Mr. Hapgood a fugitive. They're issuing this arrest warrant, which will effectively be circulated through Interpol.
And so will that compel the United States to arrest him and hand him over? We are members of Interpol, so we would have to obey, correct?
In theory, but now knowing that President Trump has had sympathetic words for the Hapgood situation and their family, and it's not just the president. There was a set of some 6 senators and 1 congressional representative from Connecticut who penned a letter just last week to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo imploring him to secure Hapgood's safety and security on the island. And Senator Richard Blumenthal even said that this is on the call for Mr. Hapgood not to show up on Monday. Senator Blumenthal saying this was a difficult decision for the family to make, but he stands ready to help. Wow. So the family does enjoy some support and the highest ranks of government here in the U.S. Will the U.S. turn over Mr. Hapgood to Anguilla? Still an open question.
Curiouser and curiouser. Wow. Well, Errol Barnett, thank you so much for joining us and filling us in on this fascinating case. Thank you.